The hospital room was quiet in the soft gray light of early morning. Machines hummed gently beside the bed where a man lay still, his breathing slow and uneven through a thin oxygen tube. His name was Charles Whitmore. 62 years old. A man who had built a fortune that people once said could last for generations. But at that moment, none of it mattered. A doctor had spoken the words only 2 days earlier. 2 days left. Perhaps less. For a man who once controlled boardrooms and skyscrapers, time had suddenly become the one thing he could not buy. Charles stared weakly at the ceiling, his eyes heavy with exhaustion and regret. He had lived a life filled with success. Companies. Investments. Luxury homes. Private jets. But as the quiet hours passed inside that hospital room, memories came that money could never silence. Memories of choices. Of people he had ignored. Of years spent chasing numbers instead of moments. His breathing grew shallow. Outside the room stood 3 people. A middle-aged man in a gray suit named Richard, age 55, Charles's longtime financial advisor. His face showed disbelief and fear. Next to him stood Elaine Carter, age 58, Charles's former business partner. Her hands trembled slightly as she watched the monitors through the glass. And beside them was a younger hospital administrator named Daniel Reeves, age 42, staring quietly with concern. They had all come to say goodbye to a man who once seemed untouchable. Inside the room, a nurse checked the machines quietly. Then something unexpected happened. The door opened slowly. Everyone turned. A young girl stepped inside. She looked about 12 years old. Thin. Her clothes worn and simple. Her dark braided hair tied loosely behind her head. Her name was Amara. Her cheek showed a faded bruise, and tiredness rested in her eyes far older than her years. She carried something small in her hand. A simple glass bottle filled with water. The nurse frowned gently. "Sweetheart, you cannot be in here right now." But Amara walked forward slowly, her voice soft yet steady. "I need to see him." The nurse hesitated. Something in the girl's voice felt different. Outside the glass door, Richard raised his eyebrows. "Who let her in?" But before anyone could stop her, Amara reached the bedside. Charles's eyes opened slightly. He noticed the small figure beside him. His voice was barely more than a whisper. "Who are you?" Amara looked at him quietly. "My name is Amara. You do not know me. But my mother did." Charles blinked slowly. Confusion moved across his face. Amara continued speaking gently. "Years ago my mother worked in one of your office buildings cleaning the floors at night. She used to tell me about a man who owned everything in that building. She said he looked serious all the time. But one night when she was sick and working late you gave her money for medicine. You probably forgot. But she never did." Charles stared at the girl. The memory floated slowly through his fading mind. A cleaning woman leaning against a hallway wall many years ago. A tired smile. He had handed her a few bills and kept walking. Just another moment in a long, busy life. But to someone else, it had meant everything. Amara placed the small bottle carefully on the bedside table. "My mother passed away last winter. Before she died she told me something. She said kindness always travels in circles. It finds its way back to people when they need it most." Charles swallowed weakly. The machines beside him beeped slowly. Outside the room Richard and Elaine watched with growing curiosity. Amara picked up the bottle again. "This water came from the church where my mother used to pray. She believed in miracles. I do not know if miracles are real. But I believe kindness is." She gently poured a small stream of water onto Charles's dry lips. The nurse gasped softly. Outside the glass Richard stepped forward suddenly. "What is she doing?" Elaine raised a hand. "Wait." Inside the room something strange began to happen. Charles's breathing slowly steadied. The tension in his face softened. For the first time in 2 days, his eyes opened fully. He looked directly at Amara. The nurse checked the monitor quickly. His heart rhythm had changed. Not dramatically, but enough to surprise her. Amara spoke softly. Sometimes people only need someone to remember them. Charles's voice returned slowly. Why did you come here? Amara smiled gently. Because my mother believed good deeds should never be left unfinished. She said if someone once helped you, you must show up when they need help too. Charles's eyes filled with quiet emotion. For decades he had believed success meant power, control, ownership. But in that quiet hospital room, a child with nothing had given him something greater than all his wealth. Human connection. Outside the room, Richard shook his head in disbelief. The doctor hurried down the hallway after receiving a call from the nurse. Inside, Charles whispered slowly. All my life I thought money could fix everything. But now I see something different. Amara nodded gently. Money can build houses. But kindness builds homes. The doctor entered the room and checked the machines carefully. His expression shifted from concern to cautious surprise. Your condition is stabilizing. This should not be happening. But it is. Richard and Elaine rushed inside. Charles looked at them calmly. For the first time in years his voice carried softness. Richard, cancel all my meetings. Elaine, call the foundation office. We have work to do. Richard blinked. Work. Charles smiled faintly. Yes. Real work this time. Helping people who were forgotten. Just like I once forgot them. He turned his eyes back toward Amara. Will you help me remember? The girl nodded slowly. Days passed. Then weeks. Charles Whitmore did not die in 2 days. His recovery shocked every doctor in the building. But what truly changed was not his health. It was his heart. He began using his fortune differently. Schools were built in neighborhoods that had none. Hospitals opened their doors to families who could never afford treatment. Shelters appeared where empty buildings once stood. And through it all, Amara remained by his side. Not as a charity case, but as family. Years later, people would speak about the strange story of the billionaire who was saved by a poor orphan. Some would call it luck. Others would call it faith. But Charles always said the same thing. It was neither. It was kindness finding its way home. And if you listen closely, that quiet truth still travels through stories like this one, reminding us that the smallest act of compassion can echo across a lifetime. And sometimes, just sometimes, it can even save one. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the Black Voices. And tell us in the comments, what act of kindness changed your life? Your story may inspire someone else today.